Hello lovely friends, welcome to this sneak peek of this box acrylic pour painting today. I'm going to give you a few tips on how to paint on a box, how to mask up and sign paintings. Oh my goodness, I've got a little treat for you today. And Kim and I have a special guest today, and it's Louise from Louise McKay Art. First of all, thank you so much, my wonderful members and subscribers. You really do help keep this channel going. Thank you so much. So here's Louise, our special guest. Please check out her channel and support both Louise and Kim if you can. So I've got an acrylic pour on a wooden box today, and I've got some hints and tips as I go along. I've had this box for absolutely ages, and I thought what better time to do it. As Louise is joining us this week, Louise does a lot of functional art, so please check out her channel and see the amazing beauties that she creates. And Kim has got some beautiful coasters on her channel as well. You can see today how many colours that I've got for this pour, and I've got a mixture of Pebeo, iridescent copper, iridescent pink, and that green I showed you. And they're my usual paints, and I'm mixing them today with Azo Gold Golden. I've also got Golden Bronze, which is, oh my goodness, gorgeous, and I'm going to show you at the end what it's like. And the other paint, the white paint I've got there, is Amsterdam. So there's my bronze, golden bronze, fine iridescent, and there's the Azo Gold. Bordeaux red as well as always, and I'm using my Liquitex gloss medium, pouring medium. It's quite reasonably priced still in the UK. I'm still using it, and I will show you the proportions at the end, but it's really a squirt, and I always go by eye because I like a feel of consistency. I've got a video that I'll put at the end of this video showing you how I measure out my paints when I do. And today for the swiping, I'm using Australian Floetrol, and I'm using my Amsterdam Oxide Black for swiping. There we are, Oxide Black. I'll show you the Amsterdam Titanium White as well. I'm not using that today, but that's what I tend to use mostly for my swiping with the white. Right, so colours. Oh my god, you can probably see two familiar colours down there. I've got the consistency here that I'm going to just show you. I must apologise in advance as well. This is filmed in cinematic today, so you may have the occasional blurring as the video zoomed in. I have edited it as best as I could, so I hope you enjoy, and also it makes it look quite nice around the edges as well. So it's let me know what you think in the comments below. So I've used my frog tape, my trusty frog tape. I always tend to come back to it. It's so reliable and it works every time. You can get it in different thicknesses width wise, so it can be thicker around the canvas or the box. So I'm using little bits as well to cover the hinges. That's what I'm doing now, and I fit them all on and it stays in place, and I'll show you at the end just how nice and clean the lines are when you pull it off. I've used lots of other masking tape and some others work really well, but I tend to come back to this one, especially if I'm doing something that I really want clean lines on. So it just shows, doesn't it, when you have something you rely on, that you go back to it repeatedly. So I find this really reliable. Let me know if you use a different tape as well. I'd love to know. I love hearing tips and hints from you as well, and I can share those in my videos when I try them out. So we've all masked up now, and my base paint today is Black & Crawford acrylic paint. I've started to use it more and more recently, and you can get it from the Works in the UK. It's a really basic acrylic paint. It's so smooth. It's a little bit thinner than the Daily Rowney that you can get in the range, but this consistency here is 20% Liquitex pouring medium gloss and 80% water, and the ratio is 1:1 paint to water. I use a little bit more water at times to thin, depending on what pour you're doing. For example, this sort of pour, which is the general acrylic pour, I like a nice thin consistency. But you can see as the paint was dropping into the pot on the bronze iridescent, the golden paint, you could see that there's a tiny mound that disappeared. It was quite thin. So making sure that I cover the surface and not putting too much on, but I don't mind it dripping over the edge because I'm going to be using the rest of it to cover the bottom part underneath the frog tape. So here we go. Azo gold, gold, bronze, blue green, lime green, white, and repeat. So I'm having a lot of fun here, as you can see, just putting the paint on just how I like it. Now then, I have used silicone oil, 1 drop in the blue green. It's from a previous pour, and I thought leave it in and just see the reaction. That's just 1 drop. So we'll be able to see the reaction of this Australian Floetrol swipe, which I've done 3 swipes on, and 1 drop of silicone in one of the paints. You don't need much at all. I've been using it a lot recently, these 2 cell activators together, and I only use a tiny amount. So if you can invest in a bit of Australian Floetrol and Pebeo, if you're going to be doing this for a while, it will last you for absolutely months, and you could always share a shipping with a friend if you wanted to as well. Okay, so I'm pouring it off the edge and just doing really light, slow tipping, because I want to keep the form and I want to keep the patterns in different ways. So you can see part of the paints mixing in different ways as I go along, and I've kept what I would like. I'm now going over it with my heat gun to bring out any more cells, and also to pop any air bubbles. So I like the pattern here, but I'm wanting to tilt it a bit more, and because there's quite a lot of paint on there, I'm able to tilt it, and I'm moving it round, and you can see the cells that are from the Australian Floetrol, and you can see the bigger cells that have interacted, the silicone cells. And for me, it feels like it creates a hot rod effect, and it creates flow and form in different ways, but it's quite a risky thing to use. Oh my god, that colour combination of the lime, bronze and azo gold against that black background. Oh my goodness, it's gorgeous. So what I'm doing with my palette knife now is I'm creating a little bit more depth of colour. So I'm using a very tiny amount of my pouring paint on my palette knife, and use a bit of pink as well. Really gently on the surface of the paint, wherever you want to add it. And there is the box all finished. So this took me hours to create the look, to tape it up, to mix the paints, and we put these videos in a tiny little bite-sized chunk for you so you can get a taste of it. But the key thing is just experiment and enjoy and have lots of fun. So you can see the frog tape coming off really nice and easily now it's dried, and as with all paintings, the colour dulls very slightly, and so personally I like to give it a bit of varnish. Some people like to resin, and I tend to mix my varnish, 50% water and 50% varnish, and it's Liquitex gloss varnish that I'm using today. And the reason why I do 50% water and 50% varnish is because I can do several layers and build it up, and you don't get the streaks. There's so many different people doing it in so many different ways, and I've tried a million ways, and this is my preferred way. So just before I show you the varnishing, you can see how easily this frog tape's coming off. Be really careful when you're going up towards the patterned part of the box, that you don't peel it off, because before you seal it with the varnish or the resin, it's still quite vulnerable. So I'm using now my paintbrush and just the same black to paint in and go over the bits that were sealed with the frog tape before, and I'll leave that again to dry. And then at the end I'm going to show you how I sign my box, and this is how I sign my paintings as well. So I got my favourite gold, which is also the same gold on the clasps, the hinges, and I sign it just like that. It's a small 75ml tube paint. It's golden, it's iridescent fine gold, and I've used the tip from a pigment pot that was empty, and I put it on the gold, and I found that the tip makes a perfect signature. So give it a try, let me know how it works for you. And I super glued the tip on around the side, and that's how it fixes. So really simple, but it definitely works. And now I'm using a really tiny fine tipped paintbrush to finish off the hinges, and I give them 3 coats to give that brushed brassy gold look. So there we go, it's all finished and ready to go. And that signature, depending on how you tilt the nib, you can do a finer signature, and I did quite a big one with this one because it's a bigger piece. So I'd love to know what you think. What do you think of the colours? What do you think I could use it for? Who would like it as a gift? And this is how I varnish. So I've got my varnish already in a reused soya pot. It's perfect. It's got a sealable lid underneath, and it's got 2 spouts. So 50% water, 50% varnish, and I use my husband's old worktop. Now the reason why I use his worktop is A, because he's worn it for years and he's discarded it, so I'm not taking it out of his wardrobe. And secondly, because it's really nicely worn in and washed loads of times, and it's mainly cotton fibre, and it doesn't give off lint. So what I did was I washed it, shredded it into bits, and I can use it to really nicely cover the surfaces. And you don't have to be too careful how you streak it across, because it doesn't leave streaks. I've got a video for that as well, so I'll leave that at the end of this video. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you've really enjoyed this piece of functional art, acrylic pouring on a box, and I think it looks slightly hot rod. What do you think? So let's go over now and see Louise McKay Art and Kim's Art Alchemy. 2 amazing people, and Kim and I are delighted to have Louise on as a guest. Please give both Kim and Louise some love and support. And please let me know what you're creating. I love hearing what you're up to. Don't forget, your art is a piece of you. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.